Welcome back to Artist Minute. We're back again. This is episode 3. Last time I reviewed one of my favorite Tupac albums, Me Against the World, and I figured I'd get into some painting or some painters that I love, reflecting back to a series that I was doing a couple years ago, and I'm continuing to work on. It's called Remembering the Masters. And this person is one of the masters of the craft. He goes by the name of Archibald Motley. Archibald Motley was born in 1891 and he died in January of 1981. One of my favorite painters of all time. Louisiana-born guy. But he came of age in Chicago. He lived on the south side of Chicago up at one point. Graduated from the School of the Arts at the Art Institute of Chicago, and a special guy, well-trained, graduated from the Art Institute of Chicago in 1918, and just a well-trained artist, understood the technique and the craft of painting in every way. He was an amazing student, and it was said about him, and I heard it said before, that he knew the rules of being an artist. He knew the rules very well. So when he decided to break the rules, he broke them from a very informed place, and that enabled him to create some special works of art that were had lasting impacts. Again, product of the Art Institute of Chicago, painting a lot of pieces that were reflecting on the Black experience on the south side of Chicago, and some of them, I think, Louisiana too, might have had an influence on some of his paintings in the way that he portrayed Black folks. Some people know him as the guy who paints those jazz singers. I remember I used to refer to him as that too, but he was more than that. Earlier on in his career as an artist, when he graduated from school, he was really influenced by European painters. He was very much into a Western tradition of painting, following in the Delacroix, the Howes, and the Rembrandt type of paintings. He was into that heavy. But it wasn't until, I say, about the 1930s when he shifted gears and he started to paint from his own experience, from our experience, Black folks' experience. There's something about him that's unique. The brother was mixed. He had a white parent. He had some Native American ancestry, and he was a light-skinned brother. And he was known to have wrestled with identity issues throughout his life. I'll go further into that. I'll do another Artist Minute specifically on the life of Archibald Motley and some of his experiences. Maybe I'll return to Remembering the Masters and dig deeper into that. But for this one, we just want to look at some of the paintings and give you a chance to interpret and review some of his works of art. Because again, he was special and he chronicled that experience. He was amongst the Black people that moved north from the South, from Louisiana. Him from Louisiana to Chicago during the Great Migration. It's interesting about him too, and it's fun. I'm doing a series right now called The Courage to Migrate. I'm writing a book of the same title. But in The Courage to Migrate, I-55 goes from, I think it's La Pointe, Louisiana, all the way up to Chicago. To this day, it ends at McCormick Place. For those familiar with Chicago, from Chicago, I-55 goes from McCormick Place inside the city of Chicago all the way down south to La Pointe, Louisiana. And he came up to Chicago before there was an I-55. I think back in that day it was Route 66 would come east from California and it would turn and go up to Chicago. And I think that was the route that his family probably took during the Great Migration. That's just a sidebar. But I want to dig into the paintings. Another thing about his inspirations, he was inspired by those European artists like Rembrandt and others. So in his early days, he painted that way. And in the 1930s, there was a shift. And he, unlike some of his contemporaries, people like Aaron Douglas and others, Lois Jones and Norman Lewis, to name a few, were not inspired by African themes. He was inspired by his surroundings, and Black American experiences were more his forte. And he was excellent in his presentation. I like to look at the artists of that era and of today too as historians who are chronicling history for future generations. We have written history, oral history, and artists, painters, and sculptors are giving future generations a glimpse into the time that we live in. And he was one of those ones that really captured the period in which he lived. So let's jump into the paintings. Again, I'll do a full series, a full episode, on the life of Archibald Motley, and we'll get into the specifics of who he was as a man beyond the paint. Some of the issues he dealt with race, and we'll cover all that in another one. But for this one, let's get into some of the paintings. The first painting that I love from Archibald Motley is called The Liar, from 1936. It's Art Deco style painting. It's a genre painting, and like you'll see a lot of his works historically, he's an oil painter. This is oil on canvas, 32 by 36 centimeters. Not a huge painting at all, but size in paintings doesn't always make too much of a difference. Some people think that paintings have to be large in order to get some acclaim, I guess, but not necessarily. There's some smaller paintings that took off, and this is one of those ones. But don't take it, that to mean that to paint small. Go whatever size canvas and whatever medium makes you, gives you the ability to express yourself on. Some people can express themselves on a little 6x6, and some people need 36 by 48 or bigger to even begin painting. So I'm moving in that direction towards larger scale paintings myself. But back to this painting, The Liar. Archibald Motley from 1936, oil on canvas. In this painting, what you see and what I see, and I'm just giving you my interpretation, and you can run away with however you feel about this painting. But I see the man with his hand outstretched across the table. Looks like he's telling a story, and he has the attention of everybody in the room with the exception of two people, or one person, the person in the back who's shooting pool. But there's one man who's lighting a cigarette with his hand over his face, and he's side-eyeing that guy that's telling the story. Keep in mind, it's called The Liar. And if you understand nonverbal communication, especially from the black culture, you can look at his face and tell what he's thinking. Like, man, if you don't get out of here with that. So he's clearly the liar in this image. Something about the color palette that was used by Archibald Motley is appealing to me. He didn't just go with the color palette for the flesh tones that a lot of artists from the period did. He would mix in some other colors. You see some alizarin crimson and all kinds of other colors mixed into those. When we go across his paintings, you'll see that he uses a lot of different textures and techniques. Not textures and techniques, but a lot of colors in his color palette to make flesh tones. And again, this is from 1936. It's definitely a period piece. One big thing I love about him is the non-conventional way that he places objects inside of his paintings, like the pool table. The way that it's angled, it's not, I guess, quote-unquote proper, or it's not realistic or true to form. I love that he would throw elements into his paintings like that were just a little bit, it was expressive. And if you look close and really examine the painting, you'll see a dog down at the bottom left-hand corner of the painting. But I'll leave that for you to explore and enjoy. But I love this painting. It's one of my favorites. Second painting I have is Hot Rhythm. Hot Rhythm is from 1961, so this is a later painting for Archibald Motley. He was an older guy by the time he did this painting. Not an old man, but an older guy. Again, Art Deco style. It's a genre painting. Oil on canvas again, 40 by 48 centimeters. And I think it's a reflective painting for him. If you consider the time, 1961, this does not look like the scene of 1961. It looks more like the scene from the 1940s or 1930s. And that would be my assumption, with the showgirls and all of that. But something about this painting and about Archibald Motley is how he captures the spirit of a moment in the same way that Ernie Barnes captures motion in his paintings. Things look like you can see the movement in the way that he frames his characters and the way that he paints them. you can see the motion with Ernie Barnes. With Archibald Motley, you can feel the spirit of the moment, the excitement of a moment. He really captures that. And I think in this picture, Hot Rhythm, which is one of his most famous pieces too, if you go online and type in Archibald Motley, this will probably be one of the first paintings that pop up. And just explore the color palette, the way he paints, his shadows, the darks and the light, the flesh tones, the colors, his color palette with the flesh tones is interesting. And, again, another special piece by Archibald Motley from 1961. And again, this was a little bit later for Archibald Motley. Another piece that I love by him is Bronzeville by Night. Bronzeville is a community, a neighborhood on the south side of Chicago. And this piece was painted in 1949. Art Deco style again, you know, genre painting, oil painting, oil on canvas again. And you see, you know, the way he captures the spirit of a moment. A busy night in Bronzeville. Bronzeville is the equivalent of Harlem for New York City. Chicago is not broken up into boroughs, but if it was, our Harlem would be Bronzeville, or would have been Bronzeville back then. Yeah, and then there's a familiar character in this piece. There's a heavyset guy with the big belly on the right-hand side who he appears in several of Archibald Motley's paintings. And I'm curious, if anybody knows, you can email me or something and let me know if you know why this character is highlighted in a lot of his pieces. And then finally, from 1920, we have a self-portrait of Archibald Motley. Again, Art Deco style, oil on canvas. He stays with the oil on canvas. Like myself, until recently, I just started doing more acrylic painting, but I love the oil on canvas too, following in the tradition of some of these greats, some of the masters like Archibald Motley. This painting, you can see he painted himself, light-complected man who had issues with that. And it's interesting, this is a powerful piece because of that, that he would showcase himself in this very plain and matter-of-fact type of way. And I have a lot of appreciation for self-portraits. I haven't done one, and I should. You should see one from me in the near future. But yeah, just for this Artist Minute, I wanted to jump in and discuss the life of Archibald Motley, the paintings of Archibald Motley. We'll come back and discuss in another Artist Minute the life. Very interesting guy, very interesting upbringing. And I think you'll find that one interesting as well. So until next time, you can reach me at info@yakubshabazz.com or on social media at Yakub, YAQUB_Shabazz. That's all social media on Twitter, Instagram, and all that. Pinterest, you name it, I'm there. But yeah, Archibald Motley, 1891 to 1981. So marinate on that. Check out his paintings, dig deep, and hit me up if you have any questions or comments about Archibald Motley. Until next time, peace.